I'm joined by John and Becky. Now, we've been interviewing quite a few of the RNLI crew today, and we've been lucky enough to actually speak to one of the guys who survived one of their rescues, which is fantastic. Now, we've actually gone behind the scenes and we've spoken to the volunteers and we've recognised the importance of the role that they do. But the other thing that's quite often forgotten is the wives, girlfriends and partners who are actually at home when these rescues take place. And these guys here are happily married together. And John is actually up for a long service award because he's been volunteering for nearly 20 odd years. So we're going to have a little bit of an insight behind what it's like to be the wife of a volunteer for the RNLI. And I'm lucky to introduce Becky. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How long have you and John been married?
It's coming up for 13 years.
13 years. So when you met, he was already here. I mean, what kind of things happened? How did he explain it to you, and what did you feel at the first time?
Well, the first real insight to sort of what goes on really was when we were out sort of shopping, and his pager went off in the supermarket.
Yeah.
And he had to go, and I was left there with the shopping and with the trolley, and just had to sort of wait until we found out what it was, and then.
And how long had you been together at that point? Was that something that you knew at some point he'd get a call, and you were kind of waiting for that, or I mean, how was it?
Sort of knew it was probably going to happen. So, but always that first one. It's sort of like.
All these years on, I mean, do you still have the same sort of feelings every time the pager goes off, or are you a little bit more
No, you do
relaxed?
get accustomed to it. You do get used to it, and you just sort of like think about what sort of job it's going to be, and sort of you'll never stop worrying about them. Sort of the conditions and that can be sometimes.
Quite well, you know,
the
weather is unpredictable, isn't it, at the end of the day, and any
right,
situation that they go to respond to is unpredictable.
Right.
What comfort do you take while John's out? Do you just sort of get on with everything? And
yes, and so the rest of the crew, their wives and partners, they're always around as well. And if it's going to be a particularly long job, like an all-night job, somebody will always ring round and just let you know sort of what's happening and how long they may be.
Because I was going to say, the relationship between like the wives, partners and girlfriends, I mean, do you have quite a close-knit group yourselves? I mean, do you have kind of like that backup?
Yes, I'll definitely say it's sort of like another family, second family really.
Yeah.
It has to be, From the social sort of side of it as well, it's really good,
I mean, John, how was it when you first met Becky? What went through your mind? You know, how did you explain to her that you could drop her in the middle of a date to go save someone's life? I mean, what was it like for you when you first sort of started out together?
It's an awkward sort of situation to sort of bring out and make them aware of what is going to happen. Until it actually happens, they don't really know, you know. And so the first time in the supermarket, I disappeared and left back with all the groceries. So
what goes through your mind though? Because you think, oh, I really like this girl, I want to keep her.
Yeah.
Is she going to cope with my job? I mean, how did you sort of yourself get over all
Yeah,
of that?
well, I'd been in the service 7 years then, and it just becomes sort of second nature. As soon as the pager goes, you just drop and go.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, it's just put on the back burner until you come back, and you pick up where you left off. As for this, you know, the stage where you sat down for your evening meal, pager goes, push the meal aside, and you're away again. So pick it up when you come back in the early hours of the morning, but which isn't the best of things for the family. And even, you know, with young children to and from school, you know, it gets a bit tricky at times. So
I was going to say, how do you kind of plan your day then? Do you literally just wake up and just get on with things and just wait?
Oh, you've got to get on with it. We all carry a pager, so it doesn't matter where you are, you'll get the page and you just respond. So, if you're in the supermarket, if you're, you know, on the beach walking the dog, you've got to get yourself down.
I mean, are there certain things that you tend to lean away from, like the school run? I mean, so is there certain things that you try and not
I'm one of the lucky
involved
ones.
in?
I'm quite close to the school, so I'm only a few minutes, so it's not a major sort of problem. But you have to watch where you go and what you do. You can't go too far away from transport to get you down to the station. So.
And how does that affect like family holidays? Because how many children have you two got?
Just the one.
Just the one.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that affect like family holidays? Do you get time off?
Yeah, we're lucky. We've got a crew of 30 at Harwich. So with work commitments coming tougher and tougher for people, we need more crew to try and cover all the gaps of the 24/7 system. So yeah, when your holidays, we have to book them down so that people are aware that you're away and that you're going to be short-handed for them times. So,
because in the last 20 years, what changes have come about that you've really kind of had to adjust to yourself? I mean, there must be new legislation, there must be new things.
Yeah.
What sort of happened in the 20 years of service?
There's a lot changed within my time of 20 years. You know, from the small things of changing our protective gear that we wear, waterproofing, and that is getting better and better all the time. The training, that is getting better, it gets tougher and tougher. And it's not only just the call-outs, you've got to adjust yourself for doing your training of evenings, weekends, and you've got to put yourself out. So, you know, even come a Sunday morning, we'll have an exercise, and the family might want to do something, but you've got to put time in. So you've got to juggle family and lifeboats.
So when it comes down to actually going out on a call-out, are there provisions in place what you have to do if John is in the middle of something? What do you do? What do you do as a job? Because obviously your job must be able to work around John's role as well.
I'm actually just at home, so it makes it a lot easier.
A lot easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there must be other wives, girlfriends and partners who have a problem when they're at work.
That's right.
And the other half got called out.
They will sort of make sure that they've got sort of transport of some kind to actually get down here. I've even known John to run down the road and actually sort of thumb a lift for somebody to actually get to the station on time.
Because how quickly are you expected to get here then, from wherever you are?
Well, from the page, like the boats be afloat, sort of the ILB is within 5 minutes.
Within 5 minutes.
So I'm just about a mile away from the station. Traffic pending. Sometimes it's a quick run. Sometimes it's quite a long run. It can be frustrating, but you've got to turn up in one bit. There's no point in turning up.
I mean, what happens if a crew member doesn't get it here in time? I mean, what happens if that actually... there must be procedures in place.
Yeah, so with a 30-strong crew, and we need 3 to man the ILB, and 6, so 7 for the big boat. So as long as we've got that amount of numbers turning up, we're fine. So if you are on the drag and you miss it, well, the next person jumps along and gets in.
I suppose everybody else who's actually got here, do they stay here and act as support?
Yes, that's right, yeah, because a lot of the time if the ILB, the small boat, goes out, sometimes we have to back it up with the big boat for either weather conditions, whether it's windy and rough, or whether it's thick fog, or if we need just more hands. We've got that extra crew here waiting if they need the extra help, so it's all good.
It's all good. And as we've just found out, you have success stories, obviously, with Joe's story, which is great.
Yeah.
And days like this are very important, aren't they? They're very important.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, you very much have a family atmosphere around here. And it's been lovely to be able to come along and be invited to come down for the day. It's been fantastic. And thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.
No call outs yet, though.
No.
Part of me, in the back of my mind, is rather hoping there would be one, just to see what actually happens.
It has been known on an actual day like this. So.
Well, it's a gorgeous day, isn't it? So everybody's out and about.
You'll find it'll be normally just after everything's sort of finishing around here. So if you hang around, you'll get one.
Because the other thing I did quickly mention to you earlier, your life almost becomes unseasonal, doesn't it? Because you know when the seasons pick up, it gets busier with call-outs. So do you kind of have Christmas in July?
we could do sometimes, just sort of like when you have a family Christmas get together and that. It does sometimes go out the window, definitely.
Yeah, but, New Year's Eve has been out the window.
New Year's Eve.
That's quite a busy time.
Do on the season that time of year? I would not personally like to be out on a boat in cold, windy weather, and I don't know.
No, some of them are commercial.
Some of them are commercial shipping. I was going to say there must be commercial entities involved in those call-outs in the summer and winter time. But once again, thank you very much, guys, for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for doing 20 years of service.
Well, thank you.
Long may it continue.
Well, I hope so. Yeah.
Long may it continue. So that's Becky and Joe and John. Becky and John giving us an insight as into married couples in the RNLI, because after all, you know, it is one of those complex things, and thankfully 13 years, and let's hope they've got another 13 years plus on top of that. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, they're the ones that are going to be inducted.
Did they volunteer?
No, in the big boat.
Helicopter's already here.
He hopes. Come and save him.
Can you imagine if the helicopter
See, looking well.
Same here.
We're now joined in the control room by a real-life experience to prove how valuable the volunteers and the public donations are to the public and to the RNLI. We're joined by Joe, Rob and John. So can you tell us exactly what happened that night when you had to get help from RNLI?
Yeah, I put my main yacht into Walton Back Channel at Stone Point, put the anchor down. I was lifting the outboard on the back end of my dinghy, which was tied to the back end of my actual boat. As I was lifting the outboard engine up, I had the right leg on the hard seat, which is in yellow. The left leg was on the inflated section at the back end of the dinghy. As I had the outboard almost adjacent to my head, just about to reach up and put it onto the back of the bracket of the parent boat, cabin cruiser went past at speed. The wash hit my dinghy, causing me to lose balance and fall into the water. Fell into the water, part of my waist was in my chest with my right leg first, still holding the dinghy and one hand holding the outboard, one hand holding the dinghy. Now the right hand is holding the boarding ladder, but I was not able to get up. In the end I decided to let the outboard go, and then I went straight into my left leg. I couldn't get a purchase, tied myself up as much as I can with rope round my left arm, rope round my right arm, one round my leg, and I shouted to my friend's boat that was about 50 foot away, also on anchor, saying I couldn't get out of the water, could he call the lifeboat out, which he did.
So Joe, once you was actually in the water, what was going through your head?
Obviously you got to survive, and still trying to work out a way of getting on board either my boat, but unfortunately I couldn't because the boarding ladder wasn't extended all the way down. As much as I tried to get into the dinghy, I wasn't able to. And so, you know, in your mind, you know you're not going to drown, but somehow you know you've got to survive it. So you've got to do everything you can trying to survive. And I didn't want to exert myself too much, knowing that hypothermia could set in any given point at any time.
When you actually receive that page and you're actually driving to the scene, what's going through your head as a crew?
Well, first of all, is time. You know you've got to be there as quick as you can, because, as I say, time is of the essence, and if we don't get there on time, we're pushing. And then the next thing is we're manning the boat, and then you've got to get your thoughts together, position of the casualty. And then once you've established a good position, you've got to make your route A to B as quick as you can, and without putting yourselves into any danger. We were sort of on a lowish tide, so we couldn't cut too many corners, otherwise we were going to go aground. If we don't arrive, that's no help. So we need to get there in one piece ourselves to get help to Joe, and keep checking on the position of where he is, and we want to come across him and find him as quick as possible. There's no ifs or buts. You've got to come straight onto him and get him on time. And that's when we got there, and then Rob took over with the medical side and recovery of Joe.
Rob, once you arrived on scene as a crew, what was the weather conditions like?
Well, the wind was about a force 6. Because it's quite sheltered, there weren't really any waves to contend with, but like Joe said, it was the wash of a passing motorboat that knocked him in. Other than that, it was quite benign.
Once you arrive on scene, what goes through your head really?
Well, before we've even got on scene, I've been using the time that we've got on the way there to prepare myself mentally for what I might face when I get there. With Paul, the other crew member, we were looking through our first aid check cards to make sure that we'd familiarised ourselves with what to do with the cold casualty and the sort of equipment that we might need, and we talked about where those items were on the boat so that we knew that when we got on scene we wouldn't have any problems trying to locate those items. In my assessment, and it was quite clear that he was hypothermic, so we'd already talked through the actions that we were going to do, and then we just worked our way through the check cards. The three of us together, the crew, we pulled Joe out and got him straight into the bow of the boat. At that point, John then just made best speed back into the marina where we knew there was going to be an ambulance, and myself and the other crew member, Paul, started the first aid treatment of Joe. So that involved just making an initial assessment, and then trying to insulate him from the cold as best possible. So we got a blanket around him and I put a balaclava on his head to stop him from losing the heat.
So if it wasn't for your service being made available to the public, what's the worst case scenario that could have happened to Joe?
Well, I mean, I suppose the worst case scenario is not really very nice to talk about, but you'd have been relying on a passing boat hopefully coming across you, really, wouldn't you? Well, or asking your friend to put himself in a similarly dangerous position, trying to recover Joe from the water on his own.
So, John, how long have you been volunteering with the service for?
Yeah, I think it was best part of 20 years now with the RNLI as a volunteer.
So that initial training that you receive is really important for you to go out and to respond.
Definitely, yeah. The training that we get is some of the top training that you can get for boat handling and anything else we do, from first aid right through navigation, whatever it is. It's all top quality training, and it's good to get along and learn more all the time. It's good.
Excellent. And lastly, in regards to donations, as I say, this service would not be around if the public did not fund it. How important is every penny?
Well, it's obviously really important. You know, the engines use fuel. We have to wear kit to make sure that we're warm and dry, and we've obviously got to have the necessary pieces of equipment that we can deal with the first aid when we get on scene. So that all costs money, and it all comes from voluntary donations and legacies.
Excellent. Well, this proves of how important the service is to the public, and that you don't need them in a real emergency. So if you do ever have a chance to donate to the service, then every penny counts, so please do bear that in mind. So from all of us at Joe, Rob and John, thank you very much.
Okay. See you looking well.
Same here.